Hello, my internet friends. Bienvenidos a Quito, Ecuador. Yo quiero dar para ti una leyendo wrap-up video. How was that? I don't know what's wrong with me. I just kind of started saying things. I said bienvenidos a Quito, Ecuador, and I thought I was on a roll. But okay, back to the language that I speak the best. Hello, my internet friends. It's me, Jay, back with another video. It is an overcast day in Quito, and it is almost the end of August, which means it feels about the appropriate time to give you a wrap-up of what I have been reading recently. First, to recap July, I was in Bogota, Colombia. I read Not All Boys Are Blue by George M. Johnson. I love this book. I rated it a 5 out of 5 stars. I thought that the writing was very rhythmic, almost musical in some parts. I also thought that his story in general was both heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time. I knew that this book would be good because I heard a lot of people on BookTube talk about how much they loved it, but I didn't know what my personal reaction was going to be, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it, even the parts that were heartbreaking. Yeah, 5 out of 5. Next, I read Good Boy, My Life in 7 Dogs. I read this for Pride Month and also for the Stand for Trans Kids tag by Leo Bandcroft. I wanted to like that book a lot more than I did. I thought that Jennifer's story of telling her life pre and post transition through the dogs that she owned during each stage of her life was an interesting idea. I love dogs. I can see how that's a really easy to market premise, but I felt that in practice, like, the dogs didn't really contribute much to the story. The parts where I was the most interested in her story were when she wasn't talking about a dog at all. I also have a theory that I think that this was Jennifer's fourth book by this point. And so, well, even though this is my first experience with her, I got the sense that she has been a well-known trans activist for, a really long time. And I imagine that she's told a lot of very impactful stories from her life over those years. I wondered if maybe all of those really impactful stories were maybe in her earlier books, and by this one she had gotten to the point where she was like, I've told this story too many times. I can't do it one more time. So I'm wondering if I should have picked an earlier memoir of hers. Maybe I would have enjoyed that one more. While I didn't love Good Boy, I would be interested in reading more of her work. In August, I read Bandit Queens, which was a recommendation from my friend Rosica, and I don't really know where I would rate this. I'm gonna say it's somewhere in between the 3 and 4 star mark. So the main character, Gita, is like a 40-year-old, let's say spinster, living in a small village in India. 5 years ago, her husband up and left her unexpectedly. Honestly, the village doesn't know what happened to him. And since no one has heard from him at all in those 5 years, they kind of assume that Gita killed him. In the society that she lives in, it's almost better to be a murderer than to be a woman who is left by her husband. So she's like, yes, if that's what you want to believe, that sounds great. However, problems arise when another woman in her village goes to her asking for help to kill her own husband. And Gita says, yes, that thing that I definitely have experience in. I can absolutely help. I liked this book. I think I wanted to like it a bit more. I found it to be a little preachy in its woman empowerment at times. Also, I kind of found Gita to be a little immature at times. Like, for example, she has like a little bit of a love interest during this book, but the way she interacts with this love interest is just so high school. Like, that high school mentality, or like that high school mentality in books where the main character has no idea that the love interest has feelings for them and also is like embarrassed by their own feelings and is trying to cover them up. It just had a very like high school energy for me, and I kept forgetting that Gita was like a grown-ass woman, because I'm like, the lack of communication. But yeah, Bandit Queens, somewhere between 3 and 4 stars. I'm currently reading one more book for August. It's called Stolen Focus, which is a memoir slash self-help book about like society's waning attention span. I really am liking it so far. We will see if I finish it and if I can do a little insert, no promises, editing J. I really find it interesting. Like in the first chapter, I felt a little defensive because it was like talking about like social media is rotting your brain and blah, blah, blah. Like stop checking Instagram. And meanwhile, as I'm listening to this audiobook, I am picking out the aesthetically pleasing pictures of Quito, Ecuador that I want to post on Instagram, because what is the point of traveling around South America and living your best life if no one sees you do it? After like the first chapter, like I started to really enjoy like the science and not feel as defensive. So I am really liking it, and hopefully I can give you a more in-depth update a little later. Oh, hello, it's a little later. Bienvenidos a Antigua, Guatemala. I do have an update for you. I finished Stolen Focus, and I think it was one of my favorite books that I read so far this year. It taught me a lot of new information about how specific societal changes have really impacted our attention span in a negative way. I know I was very defensive when I read the first chapter of the book, but after reading the whole book, I actually kind of liked that starting point, because it follows the author's personal journey of thinking, oh, this is a personal failure, I am the problem in this situation. But as he does more research, he comes to find out that it's so much more complicated and so much more systemically involved than he initially thought. And I really liked that progression of revealing knowledge. And yeah, I don't know, I just thought that book was really eye-opening. It's not a self-help book per se, but I still kind of treat it as one because it gives you a lot of really helpful contextual knowledge, and also gives you a couple tips based on the author's experience of what he's done to kind of improve his attention span, and offering those up as things that you can try for yourself. I would totally recommend it. 5 out of 5. And hey, while I have you here on this empty terrace, I would like to revise my rating for House of Hunger, which I read back in July. I did a whole reading vlog about it. I like flippantly said something about it being a 5 out of 5. So like, I don't even know if you would have caught that, but if you did, I revised that ranking. I think it's just a 3 out of 5. I would say it really depends on what you want from the book. If you want to read about a main character who becomes an indentured servant for a house of vampires and then has to escape that house of vampires, it's a 3 out of 5. If you wanted to be the main character who was indentured into a house of hot vampires and then had to escape said house of hot vampires, it's a 4 out of 5. Marion is just such a self-insert character. She has no traits, and honestly, that was not something I had picked up on because, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, I just wanted to be the main character. And so the fact that she had no personality was actually a win for me, because it just kind of like helpfully allowed me to self-insert. But then I kind of had this like epiphany when I was thinking about my answers for my mid-year freakout tag video, when it said like, what is your new fictional crush? And I immediately thought of the hot lady evil vampire. And then I thought, that's silly. I mean, she's evil. Like, shouldn't it be the main character? And then I thought about it, and I didn't like anything about her because she has no personality. And I went, I see. It's because I'm the main character. And yeah, that's my addendum. Thanks for listening. Okay, back to Past J. So yeah, that is my wrap up in books. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I will see you in another video. Okay, bye.